course. I'm going to tell you a bit about the Cirl Bunting, this glorious bird, which was actually we found on Woodah last year. And I was doing a run over the hill, because I just literally live over the hill, and there was a Cirl Bunting singing at the end of April. So it's in the Team Valley, and it's starting to expand. It's a really good news story. I'll just quickly say, so I'm working on the Exeter Team Facilitation Fund project. So if there are any land managers, farmers within that area who would like to get involved in the project, we're looking at conservation at a landscape scale, and we are creating lots of events that are incepted by the members. So we've got one on Friday with Craig. If anybody wants to come along, it's a grey long-eared bat farm and workshop. So we're going to be walking a farm in Kent, a really interesting farm which was in stewardship. So come and contact me afterwards if you're interested. So yes, this is the beauty, Cirl Bunting. So I was just going to go over some of the stats for our birds, as we've heard from Hannah, and also from Kevin. So they have been declining dramatically due to the intensification of agriculture, especially so for farming birds. You can see we've lost 56% decline in our farming birds, and obviously other birds are declining as well. So it's been a hard time for them. And so the Cirl Bunting, in 1989, the RSPB recorded only 118 pairs left in Devon, solely in Devon. And this was a species that used to be found throughout England and parts of Wales, but it was just clinging on to the South Devon kind of coastal areas, because there was still mixed farming going on, and also because of the steep terrain and salt spray, which was preventing it from being ploughed up, fertilised, that kind of thing. So at that stage, 1989, RSPB decided to set up the Cirl Bunting Recovery Project. They were working with Natural England, English Nature Then, National Trust, landowners, land managers, around that core population that was left, to get countryside stewardship agreements on the ground and good management for them. So if you are interested in creating habitat for Cirl Buntings, which are expanding now, they're in the Team Valley, inching outwards, then they need three core things. So all birds, as Kevin was saying previously, you need to give them food in the summer, you need to give them food in the winter, and they need to have a nesting habitat. So it's three things you've got to keep remembering. So the Cirl Bunting is a specialist, which is why it needs specific requirements. Like then those are the birds that have declined the most, unlike the generalists. So it needs stubbles, but specifically we found needs spring planted barley, which is not used so much. Often we now have winter planted wheat, so it needs spring planted barley, and this allows that when it's cut and the stubbles are created, it's often quite an open structure. This is a Cirl Bunting eye view of those stubbles. So the Cirl Buntings can get into the stubbles, and they actually take a lot of the little weed species, so the annual meadow grass, things like fat hen, fumitory, those are little weeds that they're looking for. And it needs to be close. They like scrub and hedgerows, so they'll jump out of the scrub. They don't want to be molested by predators, and they'll stay close to that, go and get the seeds, and then fly back into the hedgerows. And this is where the wonderful meadows come in. So they also, to feed their chicks, they need fat, juicy grasshoppers and crickets. That's what chicks really want, lots of protein. So species-rich meadows are fantastic. And also pasture, which is grazed by cattle, is great. That creates that lovely mosaic which so many species need. It allows the Cirl Buntings to access the grass in the lower areas and then pick off the invertebrates. And also great for bats as well. A farmer friend was saying to me, a really good technique, if you can't cut your whole meadow, if you can't get hold of livestock, you could do some random mowing, and so it looks a bit crazy, but I use a side and I go through and create different sward heights, or you could use a sit-on-top mower, whatever it is, but it provides that kind of varied sward, which is really useful. And then so for nesting, this is a great slide demonstrating a lovely thick hedgerow, lots of cover for the birds to have their nest in and to be protected from predators, but then they can sneak out and they can go and find invertebrates. They've got access to find invertebrates, but also if it's a really wet year, then they'll also take milky barley grains as well to feed their young. So that shows the important thing about Cirl Buntings. They used to be called the village bunting. They're very sedentary. They don't like to go too far, so they need everything very close. So when they're nesting, they need to be able to go and get those fat, juicy invertebrates within 250 metres of their nest site. And when they're foraging during the winter, they'll only really go 2 kilometres. So they're not going to go very far. They need everything, all their habitat close by. If you can't provide them with barley stubbles, then perhaps you could consider a wild bird seed mix, plant that. Again, barley, the main component, would be great, and again you can cut through it to allow access during the winter. Or you can provide them with millet and canary seedgrass and put that onto your bird tables or onto the ground near to scrub again, and that will sustain them during the winter time. So this is just a map just to show, so that was when the population crashed, and those are the few remaining spots around the South Devon coastline where they were found in 1989. So 30 years later, it's really exciting, this is the last survey done in 2016, and the dots are spreading out, including, as I said, in the Team Valley, really good new points, new populations are pricking up. This was down on the Fowl, it was a reintroduction project carried out by the RSPB, and so we've got a new population expanding there. And incredibly, they finally crossed the X. We managed to do that, and there's a little population over on the Clinton Devon estate there. So there's a couple up in North Devon, and there's been sightings in Somerset and in Dorset. So they're starting to spread out, so it's really exciting. So this is a really successful project, really exciting one to show how birds and wildlife can rebound if we provide the right management for them. So 90% of the population is within 1 kilometre of an agreement, a countryside stewardship, high-level stewardship agreement. We've got over 200 farmers working to provide habitat for Cirl buntings, over 10,000 hectares of high-level stewardship agreements, 20,000 hectares of land managed specifically for Cirl bunting, and over 1,000 hectares of spring barley, again specific for Cirl bunting. So they've really responded to that management, so it's good. I was just going to finish off. I'm writing a book, well, I've written the book, I'm just doing the illustrations at the moment. It's a children's book, and it's going to be about this gorgeous little bird, so he's very local to Devon in the southwest, and that'll be coming up sometime this year. Thank you.